All right, guys, Joe Saglimbeni back on his YouTube channel, Joe Saglimbeni. And today it's time for another Saturday Let's Chat Live. And today we finally got a request for something to talk about. So someone made a comment on my community tab, Hallow1212, wanted to talk or see if I know anything about life insurance. And so that's what the topic is going to be today, life insurance. All right. So, let's see how I do on this subject because it's a very complex subject. And I'm just going to give you my thoughts on it. And before we start, let me always repeat that I am not a financial pro or financial expert or financial planner. These are just opinion pieces. I really hope you reach out to your financial pro or life insurance agent to find out more about any of these topics. If you're going to invest your money, please reach out to a financial professional. Um, I don't play one on YouTube. I'm just a blue collar worker trying to give it opinions on some investments, and in this case, life insurance. So let's talk about life insurance. So let me start by saying that this is a complex subject and it it really can be difficult to understand. And I have many times I have a hard time understanding life insurance also. I just want to tell you that basically I don't use life insurance as an investment vehicle, which a lot of people or a lot of other creators try to talk about stuff like bank on yourself or be your own banker or using life insurance as a bank. And though I have done a lot of work on understanding that, I don't think it's a good way to go unless you completely have it written for you or explained to you by a life insurance agent with illustrations and best and worst case scenarios. So we're not going to really get into this whole bank on yourself. What I'm basically going to do today is basically explain what I know about insurance, and I'm going to use our friends at two blogs. The two blogs I'm going to use is the Insurance Pro blog, and I'm going to use lifeinsurance.org. And these are good tools, good websites you can use to basically learn about life insurance and the definitions, and you can make that the starting point for your life insurance journey. So, what insurance do I have? So, I have term life insurance, and we'll start with that first. So, I'm going to go to the Insurance Pro blog and kind of read their definition of term life insurance. Okay, so this is a paragraph. The simplest form of life insurance is called term insurance. Term takes its name from the notion that it is purchased simply for a term, a period of time, after which it is no longer renewable. So, for example, you could get a 15-year term policy for a set amount. Let's say $150,000 for $40 a month for a term of 15 years. So in that time, you are covered for those 15 or 20 years. If you would to pass away, your beneficiary would get the amount, let's say in this case, $150,000. And if you pass away in that 15-year time frame, that's when the beneficiary would get the money. Now, these term life insurances could be renewed after the term is done, but you will pay more than your $40 per month that you're paying currently now, because when you did the medical exam for this life insurance, that price for the policy was made at the time 15 years ago or 10 years ago, whenever you did the examination for this term life insurance. That's what the policy, what the insurance company thought the policy would cost at the time of your examination, your medical examination. So, term life insurance, you get a medical examination, and same thing with the next insurance I'll talk about. And you basically get, the insurance company sends a medical professional to check your heart rate, your blood, stuff like that, your weight, how much pounds you weigh, all stuff like that. And then the insurance company takes that information and decides what the premium would cost, and you would pay a monthly premium of what that medical examination showed. So term life insurance is the cheapest way to buy life insurance, but it's kind of a finite type of insurance. So, but it's relatively cheap, $400, $500, $600 a year, divided 12 months for $150,000 policy, let's say, as an example, is relatively cheap. So I always recommend that you kind of, if you start working, you kind of get a term life insurance policy anyway, especially if you're young, because your premiums will be very, very cheap. And when you're young, you could maybe get a 30-year or 25-year term policy. And then later on, if you get married, if you get a family, you can also get another term policy. That's the policies I use, the life insurance policy I use, term life insurance. So that's one example, term life insurance. The other example would be permanent life insurance. And there are different forms of permanent life insurance. So, for example, I don't know if I'm going to really go into too much about, diving into each of the form of permanent life insurance, but this is from the lifeinsurance.org site. And the 4 permanent life insurances are whole life insurance, universal life insurance, variable life insurance, and final expense life insurance. I'll start with final expense because it's probably the simplest one of these permanent life insurance. Final expense insurance will be something like a very cheap policy for something like $10,000. It's also called like a guaranteed acceptance life insurance. So let's say for a funeral or for something small, you can get a final expense life insurance product that will pay out a small amount, $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 to pay for funeral expenses or something like that. It gives a family, they don't have to worry. It gives them a chance to take care of the situation where they don't have to worry about financial burden. So that's a simple form, cheap, small amount form called final expense life insurance. Now, let's go into whole life insurance. So whole life insurance, and I'm going to take this one from the Insurance Pro blog. Whole life insurance is straight life. It It's life insurance coverage for your whole life, sometimes up to 100 years old, sometimes up to 121 years old. But it's guaranteed life insurance as long as you pay the premium every year or every month. You have to pay the premium, and the life insurance stays in effect basically your whole life. And that's where you get the name whole life insurance. It's a guaranteed death benefit for the insured entire life. And there's a guaranteed rate of return, which is within the policy that that kind of grows a little bit in the policy. These type of life insurance, whole life insurance, are the type of permanent policy that a lot of the bank on yourself or bank, be your own banker type people recommend, because you could borrow against the cash value of these permanent life insurance policies. So you can actually build a cash value and then borrow against yourself or pay yourself back within the policy on some of these permanent life insurance policies. So what do I think about whole life? Well, whole life, I think if you're going to get a whole life product, now this is just my opinion. Now I'm older, but if you're younger, 18 or 19 years old, I think it's a good idea to look into whole life insurance, because that's when it'll be the cheapest the premium will be, when you're healthy, young, and have many years of life to go. So I would definitely take a look at whole life and permanent policies in general when you're younger. Also, there's ways where you could even get a policy for like a newborn baby or a young adult, and you can do that with whole life, where eventually the young adult becomes the holder of the policy and then can make beneficiaries on it and borrow against it. Well, actually, borrow against the cash, built up cash value. So that's whole life insurance. Now, the next permanent life insurance is, let me just go here, universal life insurance. Okay, so universal life insurance is basically, and I'm going to read this again from the Insurance Pro blog, which I highly recommend. Both these websites, insuranceproblog.com and the lifeinsurance.org. All right, so basically, universal life insurance, the definition from Insurance Pro blog. Universal life insurance is often described as having a term insurance chassis, and that it is a pretty accurate description. It's a term policy with the savings account attached to it. And as long as that savings account has money and or the expenses outstanding for the life insurance component are paid, the policy remains in force. Compared to term life insurance, which is typically has an age at which the point the policy cannot be renewed. So this is sort of a quasi term and whole life kind of together, and it's probably more of a flexible instrument. And so this is something that maybe I will be looking into, because of the fact that you may be able to change the terms of this policy during the years that you have the policy. So universal life insurance is an interesting type of policy, life insurance policy, and it's something that I would look into. I guess at a young age, because premiums again would be better, but will not be as cheap as term life insurance. So that's universal life. Now, my next one and the last one that we're going to talk about is variable life insurance. So, what is variable life insurance? So, let's go and get the definition about variable life insurance. So, this is going to be from lifeinsurance.org. Variable life insurance policies are the type of permanent life insurance that offer fixed premiums and a minimum death benefit. It is also a type of security. Unlike whole life insurance, its cash value is vested in a portfolio of securities. Meaning, you could buy mutual funds or an index fund within these life insurance products, variable, and they might have can't go under 0%, but a cap at, let's say, 8% return. So if the stock market does 15% a year, that year, you may be capped at 8%, but you will see 8%. If the stock market does negative 15%, your minimum could be zero. So at least you stay not losing any money. With maybe an index mutual fund or something like this is sort of like a variable annuity, I guess. And this is interesting if some people want to learn or try to get a good return on the cash value portion of their life insurance by using equities or indexes or the S&P 500 or something like that. Now, would I get this? So most likely I wouldn't get this because I would utilize my Roth or my retirement accounts for tax-free growing, and I would put index funds or equities within those accounts to get my return on those accounts. I don't like to kind of marry up stock market performance to an insurance product. But I'm not really against it. It's just that it may not fit for me. May not be for my purposes. So, that's what I think. And we already talked about the final expense, which was for that was the last insurance, and we already talked about that. So basically, what's up, Tectonic? Basically, the insurance business is complex. This is something you have to sit down and really think about. And even term life insurance, the prices and the premiums could be drastic. So you have to try to maybe use some of those insurance quote websites to find the right term life insurance provider. The key here is there's a lot of things you have to learn. You have to sit down. This is something that you just can't make a move on a whim. And it's a very important topic. So that's basically my thoughts on life insurance. And again, I don't recommend marrying equities or stocks with an insurance product. I would say invest on your own using tax-free alternatives like a 401k or a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, and let insurance be insurance. All right, guys. So that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. It's a tough one. I didn't want to get too deep in it because it could get complex, but that's basically my thoughts on life insurance, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, guys, on my community tab on my YouTube channel, please comment on what you would like me to talk about. Even if I may not know the topic that well, which in this case, I really don't know it that well, I will try to give you my thoughts on it. All right? And that's basically it. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this live stream, and always share, comment, subscribe, like. Let that algorithm work for me. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye bye.